Oh, yeah. When I was on the Kent, the run was pretty much Saturn, the Ceres, and back.
The Canterbury, I haven't thought about that in a while.
Me neither.
She fed the firing solution in again. The moment of sickening spin, the bang of the railgun, the crack of the couch taking her in. But the Pella did it again. It dodged the same way. It was a pattern, and patterns were gaps in the armor. She could fit a knife in there. Hey guys, Pete here. This is my breakdown for The Expanse Season 6, Episode 3. Number 3 of 6, so we are at the halfway point of the season. Force Projection saw the return of the Inners to Ceres Station, the return of some characters we haven't seen since Season 3, and the Roci and crew overcoming tremendous odds in battle to get the best of the Free Navy, take out Marco and Naros, and bring an end to the war that has been gripping the Sol system. Of course, those last bits didn't happen in the episode, but I will be talking about everything else that did after this quick spoiler warning. If you're not caught up with The Expanse through the 3rd episode of the 6th and final season, then this video won't be for you. And with that out of the way, let's get into it. As all the episodes of this season do, Episode 3 opens on Laconia. We see a close-up look at the orbital platforms for the first time and see a drop shuttle returning to the planet. There's a classroom scene with a Martian soldier talking to the kids. He makes the distinction that there was a survey group already there, Cara's family was a part of this, and that he's from a group from Mars that came after, the Martian breakaway fleet. He tells the children the people who've been there longer can help those who arrived after by telling them if they notice anything different, especially over the last few weeks. The question here is, what happened in those last few weeks? When she returns to the glade, she finds the drone and realizes that somehow it's been repaired. When she activates it, she hears the dog creature and notices that it's watching her. Then, out of nowhere, the mother bird returns and it's just taking care of its babies again. This leads Cara to come to the conclusion that the dogs fixed her, that they fix things, and she gets excited and runs home. All of her problems are solved. You do notice that there's more than one dog when she runs off, and when you get a closer look at the mother bird, it's clear that it's been altered in some way. At home, she's excited to tell her parents about what happened, but she never gets a chance because she finds out that her brother Zan was killed in an accident, which we don't get any details about here because the sequence ends with the family looking at his little body laying there on the couch. The United Fleet of the United Nations of Earth and Luna and the Martian Congressional Republic have arrived on Ceres. To their surprise, it appears that Marco and the Free Navy have abandoned the station. Sandrine Kirino makes her first appearance since Season 3 and says it feels like a trap, and Avasarala adds that they're already in it. Their forces enter and initially see no one in the dock area. Eventually, they locate people who are all grouped together, and Nico Sandrani says that they are the chief administrator and they'll talk to someone who matters. They worked for Anderson Dawes, who Avasarala does consider reasonable, so why are they now working for the man that assassinated him? In response, Sandrani says, "I work for the belt," and you know that on some level Avasarala understands this. She asks, why would Marco give up Ceres with no resistance? It's crucial for his supply lines, it's the seat of his government, it gives the Inners a forward position in the belt, and Sandrani doesn't have answers, other than to say that they'll encounter no resistance on the station. We also learn that staying was a choice, and we learn that the Free Navy stripped everything useful from the station on their way out, and at the current rate of consumption, there's only enough food and air for about 3 more weeks. This is bad news for the unified fleet because they have problems at home that they're having trouble dealing with, and now there are 1 million people here that will starve if they don't do something about it. They don't really have a solution to this in the amount of time they have to make it happen. We saw at the end of last episode that Marco knew that they would want Ceres, and he took the opportunity to turn it into a trap. He made the mess theirs, and if they don't solve it, they'll be responsible for a major humanitarian crisis. At the same time, he gambled with every Belter's life in the station, and we learn how he justifies that over on the Pella, where we see that Philip is watching news feeds that are critical of the Free Navy and how they left it behind. On the deck, Rosenfeld is worried about the Inner's response and the number of ships that they've been able to mobilize. Marco brushes it off, saying that this is not the Inner's kind of fight. The Free Navy will hit and run and hit and run. And Philip interrupts their conversation and asks to speak to his father. He's upset that they're being called cowards and brings up the fact that they did lie to the people on Ceres. Marco says that they never would have been able to hold the station against the Inners, but he needed the people there to believe that they could. He told them what they needed to hear. And Philip actually raises his voice when he talks about stripping the station and leaving them without enough supplies to survive. Marco takes it to the next level and starts shouting that they left a problem for the Inners to deal with. They would be forced to tie up their resources, and it will weaken them. He can see that his son is having a hard time processing it all and says that it speaks well of him that he's able to have that feeling of care. But then he makes the distinction that the Belters on Ceres are different. He basically calls them soft, saying they're dependent on their comforts. And I think here you can see where Marco's real strengths lie. When he tells his son, "You and I were meant to be out here in the darkness, in the fight. That's who we are, who we were born to be. Never forget what your name is, the name we share." He gives his son a hug, and the whole thing seems to win him over for the time being. And it makes you think about that conversation where Drummer and Walker were talking, where they both had agreed that he's good at getting people to follow him. In an episode where so much happens, they still managed to deliver some great character moments on the Roci, which after the mission for the Azure Dragon is en route to Ceres. Holden needs sleep, so he tells Clarissa to take over the watch, which surprises her. She doesn't really think she's up for it, but he assures her that the ship basically flies itself in this situation. She just needs to stay awake in case of an emergency. After she agrees, when she stands up, she almost falls over, and that leads to a conversation about her mods. She tells him she got them because of him. At first, she just wanted to kill him, but then she decided that disgracing him would be better. Maybe it would make her father look like a hero. And she confesses that she killed Ren back in Season 3, Episode 7, after he discovered her bomb on the Song Yun. Each time she uses them, she's reminded of his face in his last moments. And where it gets good is when Holden tries to comfort her by saying, "Everyone on this ship has something they regret, including Amos, I think. You're in good company." And it's a great reminder of who this crew is and why we love them so much. We also get a good back and forth between Bobby and Amos, who start out talking about how bad the food is they got for the ship. And when he mentions that Ceres has good noodle shops, he mentions working on the Canterbury, and they both remark that they hadn't thought about the Cant for a very long time. They continue this trend of sort of feeling each other out and lightly testing each other, and we see a little more of that in the X-Ray mini episode. In their quarters, Naomi's watching a news feed where one pundit says it's a win that they've regained control of Ceres, but on the other side, they question how much of our food is going to support these Belter terrorists. Holden comes in and wants to talk about something. She gives him permission, and he acknowledges that he didn't want to push things, but he is worried about what happened during the mission. She explains that she had flashbacks to the Pella and the Chetzemoka, and her body just wouldn't move. She thinks she would have been alright if she just would have had a little more time, but by then Clarissa had taken her place, and she feels humiliated. He asks her for a favor to change the subject and brings up the Barkeith going missing. He also tells her about the data that he got from Bobby about the other missing ships, and she figures out what he's doing. She says, "You're trying to distract me by giving me an interesting problem," and breaks out with a big smile, because of course that's what he's doing. Amos and Bobby continue their bonding ritual, working on her power armor, and he gets a message from Prax. And I love that she called him the plant guy. So this is another big character return, and maybe he did this from his closet during the pandemic. I'm not sure, but I'm just glad that he's back. We had seen a blurb on the news about a scientist getting killed on Ganymede when Philip was looking at his hand terminal. It turns out that it was someone Prax worked with, and they had discovered a new new strain of yeast that could create massive amounts of food out of little more than spare carbon dioxide and waste energy. This is one of the many advancements scientists have made post-protomolecule. He reached out to Amos because he knows he has connections and he wanted him to get the data to somebody important because Earth could really use it to help feed its people. He says, don't worry about me or May or the rest of us. I can take care of them. And then he just straight up starts cutting onions when he says, I miss you, my friend. Amos takes it in and he realizes that there's absolutely nothing in this for him, that he's really doing this just because he's a good guy. While Holden is finally sleeping, Naomi is looking at the missing ship data and she thinks she notices a pattern. She explains it to him as it's like a hole opens up in the floor and if someone falls in, then they're gone. But then a minute later, the hole itself is gone and everything seems normal until another hole opens up somewhere else. And then for the next minute, more people fall into that. Based on the data she has, she can't say for sure that it's the same thing that happened to the bar Keith, and for now they leave it there. On Ceres, Monica is out and about filming, and after we see one of the soldiers is trying to communicate using Langbelta, she catches a different UN soldier saying, didn't we come here to shoot these people? Later, she approaches a Belter man who's holding a kitten, and we see that there is a series of explosions in and around the docks, and we don't really see what set them off or how much damage they'll cause. Over on the Tynan, Drummer and Walker are discussing the Golden Bow dissidents that they're teaming up with, and it's funny because she says, and you trust them fully? To which he responds, fully, more like enough. We get another big character return from the news feeds. Michio's watching one where Pastor Anna is talking about how people on Earth need to work together in these tough times. Later in the episode, we find out this is part of Monica's project that Avasarala wanted her to do, and Joseph comes over and delivers the line, poor Earther. Doesn't know where she'll get her food and water. Welcome to the belt. Drummer gets more information about the supply depots from Walker. There may be up to 10 of them, he thinks. And she asks, why does he need them when he has control of all the main stations? He says maybe as a hedge, for when the inners came, which they obviously did. And then they get interrupted as Michio and Joseph get into a heated discussion about what's happening on Earth. You hear Joseph say maybe now they understand, and Michio respond that we killed their children the way they kill ours. And you gotta love how Walker's response to this is that I can see why you didn't want that one on your ship. The two new ships check in saying, we were Golden Bow, now we fight for you. And Drummer responds, good, I'm ready for a fight. And speaking of a fight, we do get a major battle in space. The Pella has discovered the Roci on its way to Ceres. Marco wants to make a move and feels confident because they have them outgunned and it's 3 ships to 1. Rosenfeld tries to talk him out of it because in the big picture, the Roci's not really important and it's not the right time to take this kind of risk. While they're going back and forth, we can see that Philip looks conflicted, but Marco orders everyone to their battle stations, and then he tells Philip to take the guns. He accepts the order knowing full well that they are planning on killing his mother's ship with her in it. They start to close in and the Pella gets a missile lock. Marco tells Philip to take the shot. They fire a group of missiles that the Roci is able to shoot down with its PDCs. Holden gets an idea to fire up the railgun even though they're too far away to actually aim it properly. He does a quick turn and fires a shot that just goes straight in their direction and it hits the Lauber who didn't have time to react. It's venting atmosphere and crippled, which takes it out of the fight, and the Granicus has to break off to help them. Marco says they don't need either of them, they can take them out themselves, and he orders his crew to maintain distance and watch out when they flip to fire the railgun. He tells his son to end this now. They fire more torpedoes, and they are able to dodge the railgun shot whenever they see the Roci turn. As things continue, the Roci takes damage with some of their PDCs misfiring. When Amos gets up to repair them, Clarissa says we're gonna do that during the fight, and he tells her, that's the job, Peaches. And as they move around, they have to brace themselves every time they turn to fire the railgun. Bobby comes up to take over the weapons and to assess the situation, and she notices when Holden fires again that the Pella dodges the shot in the exact same way each time. She tells Holden to fire some torpedoes that will give them something different to worry about and to hand over manual PDC control to her. When he fires the torpedoes, she fires a burst of PDC rounds to where they'll be at when they dodge the railgun again. You see them moving through space looking almost like a misfire since they were aimed at nothing. But when they dodge again, they fly right into them and the Pella gets knocked out temporarily. Bobby is ready to take the kill shot and end the Free Navy's reign, but Holden wants to try to take Marco prisoner. Naomi jumps in and says that he'll never surrender, which makes Holden agree that if it doesn't work, then Bobby can take the shot. When he pulls up the comms and asks Marco to give up, which of course he doesn't do, knowing that they can see him on the camera, he moves aside so they can see Philip, Naomi's baby boy, sitting right there behind him. In what he expects to be his final moments, he says, "I will die before I live at the end of your leash," and Bobby takes the shot. Everyone, including Naomi, watches them on their screens as the torpedo approaches to end them. It hits the ship, but the warhead doesn't detonate, and shortly after that, the Pella's drive comes back online. They disengage on Marco's command and leave. We saw that Holden was doing something as the torpedo was approaching, and we get a shot of his heads-up display where we learn that he disarmed the torpedo and let them live. They were seconds away from ending the war, and Holden couldn't go through with it. On the Pella, Marco is furious that they lost, and he tells Philip he failed in front of everyone. Philip turns it around and says that this is actually his fault because they didn't need to go after the Roci in the first place. He blames it on Marco's pride and challenges his authority in front of the whole crew. Marco calls him a coward, cuts him off, and relieves him of duty. You see Marco leave, and this whole situation is a big unforced error. Philip was basically correct in what he was saying, and Rosenfeld had told Marco the same thing. Even though they survived, things look pretty bad for him, and then he gets a message from Medina Station. Someone there says that Medina Station is pleased to report that the RSRG-6 was just received at the Laconia ring gate. Operational testing will commence as soon as possible, and we will of course keep you fully apprised. If this one performs as well as the others, it will be fun. So this ties into what they were talking about earlier when they mentioned that they were installing something from Laconia. You get a look at it moving through the ring, but I'm not sure you can figure it out if you haven't read the books. I will say though that the letters RSRG6 are probably a clue, and if you look at how they change the opening credits week to week, you might be able to put it together. It's all there to show that Marco has something up his sleeve, and the episode ends there. So a really great episode with just so much going on. I'll probably get tired of saying this by the end of the season, but it really does have something for everyone. Mystery on Laconia, great character stuff on the Roci, a lot of interesting situations that people find themselves in this time of war, and a great battle to top it all off. It was nice to see Kirino, Anna, and Prax, and if you think about what we've seen so far between the crew, it doesn't seem like Holden's decision is going to go over too well. Even though they don't have a lot of time to linger on things outside of the main characters since there's so much momentum in the escalating conflict, I think they're doing a great job of showing how this is affecting regular people across the board through the news feeds and the various discussions between characters. People have complicated feelings about what's happening. And then you have the integration of Clarissa into the crew, Holden and Naomi's private moments. I'm sure everyone's going to be talking about Bobby and Amos and their back and forth, and the family dynamics involved with the Pella versus the Roci. Marco almost looked like he took pleasure in ordering his son to kill his mother, and then he wanted him on screen when Naomi had to make the decision to tell Bobby to fire on them. Just heavy stuff. So there is just so much more to talk about here. So I'm going to try to do the live stream again where I can dig a little deeper. Hopefully we'll get that process down over the next couple of episodes. I think I'll leave this one here. So let me know in the comments what you thought about the episode, what you want to get into when we talk about it some more, how you think things will play out, and what you're hoping to see. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.